Good morning, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Very interesting news on this morning about the story of young Emmett Till. And if you guys don't know who Emmett Till is, Emmett Till was a 14-year-old African American male from Chicago, Illinois, who had gone to visit family members in Mississippi in the rural South. Okay, and while he was there, he encountered a woman by the name of CAROLYN BRYANT. She was 21 years old at the time. And the encounter that they had in a store that the Bryants owned, she claimed that he made advances toward her and eventually whistling at her and putting his hand around her waist. Okay. And so from that, the story this alleged story was told to her husband, where he rallied up friends in the neighborhood. They went out searching for young Emmett Till, who was staying at his uncle's house in the rural South in Mississippi. Okay. And they barged in his family member's home, swept him out of the bed in the wee hours of the night. They beat him up really badly, ended up shooting him and throwing his body in a river, holding it down with a cotton gin. Okay. Now, this was a 14-year-old African American male who we now know from the interviews done with his mother, Mamie Till, that when this white woman said that Emmett Till whistled at her, we now know that Emmett Till actually had a speech impediment and was taught by his mother that when he goes into a stutter, that he is to whistle in order for him to get his words out properly. Nonetheless, it's 70 years later, and we still see no justice for young Emmett Till. What's come out in the news now is that Carolyn Carolyn Bryan Dunham has released in her memoir, just a few short days after a Mississippi grand jury decided not to indict her on her involvement with the Emmett Till lynching. She released her memoir, and in her memoir she states, and I'm just going to go ahead on and read to you a little bit of this news article. But in her memoir, she states, and it says, by her own telling, Carolyn received preferential treatment rather than prosecution by Mississippi authorities after her encounter with Emmett Till led to the lynching of the black teenager in the summer of 1955. Instead of arresting Dunham on a warrant that accused her of kidnapping days after Till's abduction, an officer passed along word that relatives would take her and her two sons away from home amid a rising furor over the case. Dunham said this in 2008 in her memoir that was made public, okay, just last month. The sheriff would later claim that Dunham, 21 at the time, could not be located for arrest. Okay, and so now what we know now is that the family of Emmett Till was able to get into the evidence files of this case and actually find this arrest warrant, which led the Mississippi grand jury to reopen the case and consider filing charges against Carolyn Bryant Dunham. But as we know now, and this happened just a few short days ago, that same grand jury decided not to prosecute. They turned over a no bill and they decided not to prosecute. This story is very, very interesting to me because from the from the inception of uh, this case took place in 1955, and that was the time where racial tensions were very, very high, and Caucasian Americans still felt like they had um, superiority over African American people in some parts of the nation, uh, especially in the South. African American people still bow down in some degrees to Caucasian Americans. And it's interesting because Emmett Till, coming from Chicago, Illinois, did not grow up under the same social constructs as the people in the South did. So when he took that ride to Mississippi, um, he was instructed by his mom to conduct himself in a certain way. But he was a city boy, you know. He did not come from the South. So his mannerisms, which I'm sure noticed upon his arrival in the dirty South, that he was not one of them. Um, it's just so sad. As we know, Mammy Till ended up putting her son's body on display for all the people to see what had happened to him. And it was a gruesome sight. And that was one of the instant, instances that sparked the civil rights movement. For further information on this story, guys, go ahead on and do your Google search, um, and it'll pop up. Thank you guys for your time and have a blessed day. Bye bye.